reports find the patterns sifting through. As he read the data, the patterns did emerge. Patterns that were clear both before and since the surge. Patterns of abuse of the most horrific kind. Gunning down civilians out of view and out of mind. Gunning down the opposition in the middle of the night. Sending off the scholars to be tortured out of sight. Sometimes you need desperate measures when you live in desperate times. Private Manning's all he was, looking at war crimes. He wondered what to do to allow the dead to speak. He finally decided to contact WikiLeaks. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes. Now Adrian Lamel has to live within his skin. He stabbed Bradley in the back, called the cops and turned him in. But not before the soldier took 500,000 files. If you printed all the pages, they'd stretch on for miles. Evidence against the state, right from the horse's mouth. Machinations in the west, bombings in the south. A treasure trove of details for all the globe to see. How much they need to lie and kill for democracy. How many drone strikes have hit villages, leaving everyone to die. They blamed on someone else, the official line, not I. How many coups have been plotted by ambassadors who say that free and fair elections be the order of the day. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes. Genie's out of the bottle, and they're trying to stuff it back and stop it from illuminating everything we lack, such as the rule of law or playing by the book. Look, you can read it, it's right here. The ship of state is run by crooks, and they vilify the messengers, call them every name for daring to blow the whistle on the nature of their game. The game of taking lives and endangering the rest, in order for the wealthy few to do what they do best. Dominate the world for the corporate elite. But now their cover's blown from their head down to their feet. And now the stars and stripes is looking much more like a rag. The lid is off the box, the cat's out of the bag. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes. It's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes.
And good morning, and good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you might be listening. This is David Rovix, and this is my first show on Spreaker. I don't know, it's not my first attempt at doing an internet radio show, but it's my first attempt in a while, and I think I'll make it a regular thing. And very much open to suggestions about what I should do with it, with a monthly internet radio show. I figure I would start out at least by doing some songs of my own and others about the current events and also this month in history kind of thing. And eventually I'll figure out how to hook Skype up with this with Spreaker, which can be done, and maybe I'll start interviewing people on the show, and eventually I will maybe figure out what the rules are with playing other people's music, and I'll start doing some of that as well. Or maybe I'll just start doing it without looking at the rules. Let's see. So that was a song for Bradley Manning, which you can find on the official WikiLeaks fundraising recording that you can find online. And if you go to bradleymanning.org, you can find out a lot more about recent developments with Bradley, which include an incredibly moving and inspiring statement read to the court a few days ago. You can read about that and hear about that on Democracy Now! As well, where they interviewed his Michael Ratner, a WikiLeaks lawyer and from the Center for Constitutional Defense, and wonderful guy. And let's see. So one of the other things in the news quite a bit is the upcoming sequester and all the cuts, the budget cuts here that will be resulting from it in the USA. And if anybody has any comments or questions, they are most welcome. In the lower right on the screen, if you're watching this on Spreaker, apparently there should be, as there is on my screen, a little sort of balloon that looks like somebody, a chat box, like somebody's talking like in a cartoon, and you click on that and you can see the chat room, which currently has my little welcome message, but nothing else. So if anybody feels like saying something, letting me know you exist, that anybody's listening, of course it'll be archived as well. But if you want to say anything, comments, questions, most welcome. Suggestions for where I should go from here with this show, or if you have any specific things that I might talk about or play. I have a guitar right here and a pretty decent external mic, which I think should be sounding pretty good out there. I don't know. But let's see. Here's my song "Tax the Rich" for the sequester.
500 or so rich men in the Congress are engaged in some most serious debate, along with a few thousand lobbyists. They will now decide the world's fate. They say we're running out of dough, and the people all must take another hit. Well, there are some things that I know, and what they're saying is, I'm not a mathematician, but one doesn't have to be too deft to see if 1% of us owns half the wealth. That leaves 99% to share what's left. And then if 60 cents on each tax dollar is buying bombs to blow the planet into bits, then I think we need to grab them by the collar and patiently explain to them that that's tax the rich, tax the rich. Close the loopholes so none of them can fudge it. Bring 'em home, bring 'em home, and eliminate the military budget. They say we cannot pay for health care, nor for decent schools to educate the kids. Sorry if you don't have shoes to wear, but this recession has just left us in the skids. They say we can't afford those windmills after all, so just stiffen up and show a little grit. And if climate change and poverty have gotten you down, just sing, oh say, can you see? Tax the rich, tax the rich. Close the loopholes so none of them can fudge it. Bring 'em home, bring 'em home, and eliminate the military budget. They say we've gotta fight those terrorists. They say we've got to send our kids to war. Just ignore that corporation behind the flag and don't ask us what the hell they're fighting for. I hear GE is subsidized, leaving us fools to pay for it. They shirk their duties while we downsize. I know what that's called. Tax the rich, tax the rich. Close the loopholes so none of them can fudge it. Bring 'em home, bring 'em home, and eliminate the military budget. Tax the rich, tax the rich. Close the loopholes so none of them can fudge it. Bring 'em home, bring 'em home, and eliminate the military budget.
Tax the rich, and yeah. So, oh, by the way, if you are by chance having trouble, I don't know if it's any hassle to join the chat room. I know on some of these services you got to register and stuff. I don't know if that's the case with this one, but you can also feel free to send me a message on Gmail, chat@drovics, or aim@drovics, or Facebook. Or you can text my cell phone if you want to. The number is at davidrovics.com and click on Contact Me. And you'll find the number there if you want to do any such thing. And so greetings everybody from cloudy Portland, Oregon. And lovely place. Unless you tour Europe for a living regularly, in which case it's very far from Europe, but it's still lovely. And this show, by the way, is also, I will also happily play the role of the NPR host. And if anybody feels like making a donation on my website, davidrovics.com, I want to click on the donate button. You are welcome to do so to pay for the costs of doing this show, which are pretty minimal, and to pay for my $5,000 dental bill, which probably won't happen. But I mean, the bill will, but the donations for the bill may not. But you're welcome to, keep me alive and therefore keep me on the road by helping with my dental bill. I'm not proud. I'm an American. Let's see. Here is so moving into history and song. That was my two songs for political commentary for the moment, and moving on to history. For the month of March. On March 4th, 1944, Berlin, the beautiful city of Berlin and the capital of Germany, was carpet bombed by U.S. and British warplanes, killing an estimated 50,000 people, mostly women and children. I just want to repeat that. On March 4th, 1944, British and American warplanes bombed a city full of women and children, killed 50,000 people in the course of a few hours. That's our government that did that, by the way. And it was Democrats in power at the time. And this is a song called Berlin.
Saw it in a photo, it said all I need to know. It's an image that has followed me wherever I may go. When I look into your eyes, I can only guess at where you've been, looking at the skyline of Berlin. The buildings are all shattered, as in a silent the streets are all just rubble. The year is 1944. I guess I just don't understand this world we live in, as I'm looking at the skyline of Berlin. I look into your face, I can hear the dying cries, the sadness of the world reflected in your eyes. The picture of a city flattened like a tin, looking at the skyline of Berlin. Talk about the Blitz and all those good people gone. You can claim you are fighting evil, you can ask which side I'm on. But all I see is horror, a war only death would win, when I'm looking at the skyline of Berlin.
Yeah, you can see some photos. You gotta kind of work hard to find those photos because they're not all that easily available, it seems to me. But the photos of the skyline of the German cities during that terrible war. And moving on to March 10th, 2006. It's kind of funny in a way how often. I'm kind of like talking with somebody about recent events among the progressive movements of the U.S. over the past couple decades, and people often somehow don't seem to remember to mention some of the biggest protests that have ever happened in the history of the U.S. Probably because they weren't there. And in 2006, when there was a massive series of protests in cities throughout the U.S. in March and April, May 2006, people demanding that they be viewed as human beings rather than undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens or whatever they want to call them these days. On April 10th, I think it was April 10th, my birthday, the next month in 2006, I was in Houston, as I often was at the time, and I had the great privilege of singing for a protest that was just an absolute sea of people marching through Houston and being greeted with great enthusiasm by those on the streets as well as by the truck drivers and so many others, and you just realized, like you never realized before, just how many Latinos there are in Houston, and how many other people support those Latinos who make up, I believe, 39% of the population of Houston. And here's "No one is illegal," which is incidentally one of the favorite phrases of the left in Germany. That kein Mensch ist illegal.
This song goes out, I guess, more now than ever to the Arab American community, but I wrote it more with Latin Americans in mind. Of course, so many folks are in the same boat, hopefully not soon facing indefinite detention for being immigrants. The clouds gather in your forests, drift to my desert town. I think of far-off places as the rain is coming down. You're bent down in the fields, picking fruit there from the vine, and it ends up on my table as it moves on down the line. The moon shines brightly in the night sky. The river flows from south to north. With the changing of the seasons, the birds migrate back and forth. They say that you can't come here, not in the light of day. Somebody has got plans for you. Starve at home or hide away. Will we open up the borders? Tear down the prison walls. Declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls. So much travels across these borders. So much is bought and sold. One way goes the gunships, the other comes the gold. Free trade is like a needle, drawing blood straight from your heart. The border's like a prison, keeping friends apart. Will we open up the borders? Tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls. Hear the stockholders cheering. The world's getting smaller. Hear the drowning child crying. Why are the fences growing taller? Some whisper in the shadows, while others count the dollars. Some have suits and ties, others chains and collars. Will we open up the borders? Tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls. May these fortress walls come down. May we meet our sisters and our brothers. Stand arm in arm there in the daylight, no longer fighting one another. Will we stand together? For therein lies our might. Will we understand these words? Workers of the world unite. Will we open up the borders? Tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls. Open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls.
That was from a live show that I did in Cafe Lena in was it Saratoga Springs or somewhere upstate New York at Brad Simpson and Kristen Sundell's wedding in let's see. So March 11th. Well, what happened on that date? 2011, huge earthquake. And tsunami hit Japan and set off in motion one of the most horrible natural and man-made disasters in the history of the world. A multiple meltdown of the reactors in Fukushima still ongoing, and the terrible devastation left by the tsunami and the many people killed and so many children orphaned. And I was reading about one of those children in a town that may never be inhabited by humans again, in the wasteland that is now Fukushima Prefecture, a little town called Minami Sanriku.
It was only last week that I walked past the water. I remembered last summer and the candles we made. The whole town was there beside the river on that warm August night of the lantern parade. With the breeze on our backs, we walked home together. We unrolled our futons when the night was through. Oji-chan was sleeping, so we tried not to wake him. That's how life was in Minami Sanriku. It was only last week that I came home from school. My parents were working, but my grandpa was there. He threw a ball in my hand, looking ever so cool, in his corduroy jacket and his wavy white hair. I said, "Hello, Oji-chan," and I threw him the ball. It went kinda like that for the whole afternoon. The sun had gone down when we heard Oka-san call. We went inside to eat in Minami Sanriku. It was only last week I was sitting in class with the rest of the kids on top of the hill.
I don't know what happened there, why that song did not load properly, but it didn't. So apologies for that song being interrupted like that. But it didn't load completely into the deck here apparently. So that was not ideal. Well, this is live internet radio, folks, and I suppose these kinds of things happen. Certainly to me. I don't have any producers, so nobody to check all that stuff. Anyway, moving on to more depressing dates in history. Well, that one was depressing. This one has elements of depressing and elements of inspiring and elements of lots and lots of other things. March 15th, we're doing history here. And, before I move on to talking about that, I just want to thank Davey McCartney on Twitter out there, and Daytona Slim, and Jason Crane for letting folks know about this radio show that I'm doing right now. And Figure Disfondo, thanks to all of you for retweeting telling folks about this show, because that's how people find out about it. Otherwise, they don't. So anyway, moving on to March 15th. What happened on March 15th? Well, lots of things, but because there's only 365 days in a year, so there's a lot of things that happen. But March 15th was in 1981 was when Francis Hughes began his hunger strike in the H blocks in the north of Ireland, after being caught and arrested, and he was the second man to Republican prisoner in Ireland to go on hunger strike after Bobby Sands, and it was just after Bobby Sands had died after not eating for 2 months or so. What was it, 66 days, 67 days, something, and then Francis Hughes began his hunger strike, and Francis was the second of 10 men who died on hunger strike in the protests in the prisons during the Troubles. They were trying to get recognized as prisoners of war, which they clearly were, but Thatcher and her government was having none of it. And I wrote a song about Francis, having read 10 Men Dead and other stuff about the hunger strikers, and having spent some time there. Francis Hughes was revered as a very effective soldier, as well as known as a man of few words who was not particularly intellectually bent, you could say. And having heard about the character of the man, I wrote this song that is about him, and called Up the Provost.
He grew up on a farm in a troubled Irish land, under foreign rule and the British Crown's command. His father fought for Ireland 50 years before, but the Free State cut their losses and the English won the war. When internment without trial was the order of the day, when his brother was arrested and his friends were blown away, when he was beaten near to death, he decided, come what may, he'd throw his lot in with the provost, and he joined the IRA. In the occupied 6 counties, perhaps it never will be known, all the foreign soldiers in Armagh and Tyrone who decided to head back across the Irish Sea so they wouldn't have to meet the man from south of Derry. He never wavered in his battle for Irish liberty, and the Crown would soon regret the day they called him enemy. The Brits called it bandit country, and it filled them all with fright. In the borderlands, you who walk the hills at night. Up the Provost, that's what he said. 3 little words that filled the British Crown with dread. With a rifle on his shoulder, a timer and a fuse, long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Once he was surrounded by the SAS. How he might escape was anybody's guess. In his boots and camouflage, he didn't miss a beat. He walked right past the soldiers and out into the street. Once he came upon a checkpoint, the soldier didn't want to die. He recognized our Francis and the soldier waved him by. He didn't want to find out if he could take what he could give. He knew there'd be a shootout, and the soldier chose to live. Up the Provost, that's what he said. And from this farmer's son, better men had fled. With a rifle on his shoulder, a timer and a fuse. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Was the North's most wanted man, with his photo everywhere. But he eluded capture with his wit and dyed blonde hair. For 6 years he was active, 3 times as long as most. He became a legend, north to south and coast to coast. He came upon 2 soldiers out one night on patrol. They caught him in the firefight, and the bullets took their toll. Crawled off into the bushes, but they found him the next day. Grabbed him by his arms and they carried him away. Up the Provost, that's what he said. With a shattered bone and a body full of lead, with a rifle on his shoulder, a timer and a fuse. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. They beat him and they tortured him and they gave him 80 years. When they brought him to the H blocks, he was greeted there with cheers. He went right onto the blanket, and when the hunger strike began, he was the first to volunteer, along with Bobby Sands. He was an Irish soldier, that's how he did his time. He knew he was no criminal, occupation was the crime. Bobby Sands had passed beyond us, where Francis soon would be. And although he couldn't stand and he could barely see, up the Provost, that's what he said, as they carried him to hospital to lay in his deathbed, with a rifle on his shoulder, a timer and a fuse. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Up the Provost, that's what he said, and soon there'd be another standing in his stead, with a rifle on his shoulder, a timer and a fuse. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes. Long may we remember Commandante Francis Hughes.
Well, many thanks to Gavin Kerr, and Tony Tracy for retweeting and mentioning the show, which I'm having fun doing, and even if it's an entirely seat of my pants operation here. So March 16th in 1968 was a particularly notable date in the history of the world, I would say, because it was on that date that the My Lai massacre was committed, and it was what is known about that date by people in much of the world is that the My Lai massacre happened. But what's a bit less known, perhaps especially within the United States, is that the My Lai massacre was only one of many, many other massacres, and that committed by the U.S. military in Vietnam, and that the massacring of civilians, including children, was actual military, government policy. This was official policy to massacre people, and they did it on many, many, many occasions, usually unreported, unknown. And this was the case not only during the U.S. war against the people of Vietnam, but also in the U.S. war against the people of Korea had just preceded that. This was also the way the U.S. military behaved in the Philippines around the turn of the 20th century, which was almost completely unrecorded, of course, at that time. But it was a lot like the Vietnam War, except there were no helicopters involved, and the Philippine people were equipped with sticks rather than machine guns. They managed to kill quite a few U.S. soldiers and keep the resistance going for years, nonetheless. But this is a song I wrote about a man who is still very little known, I'd say, far less known than the fact that the My Lai massacre happened, and far less known than Lieutenant Cayley, who was responsible, the commanding officer in charge, was that the fact that that other members of the U.S. military prevented the last few people from being massacred when they saw what was happening. They acted according to their morals rather than according to their command structure, and they stopped the massacre from continuing. And they were not awarded anything or given any kind of praise for this at the time. It was only several decades later, I believe it was 1997, when I was sitting in a cafe in Virginia and reading the local newspaper, and they were talking about how Hugh Thompson, who was a helicopter pilot at the time, was about to be given an award at Arlington Cemetery, and 30 years after the fact, or something like that. Yeah, about 30 years late. And the only reason they were giving him the award at Arlington was because the government of Vietnam had just announced that they were giving him an award and introducing him to some of the adults, young adults, who were children and babies when he saved their lives. And so the U.S. military quickly decided that they didn't want to be left in the lurch there as far as that goes, and so they gave him the award quickly in order to beat Vietnam to it. Hugh Thompson died, I believe, in 2006, if I recall, and his friend Dave Klein, my friend Dave Klein, who for many years was the president of Vietnam of Veterans for Peace, as well as back in the day very active with Vietnam veterans against the war. Dave Klein said that they played this song at Hugh Thompson's funeral, which I believe was in Louisiana, where I think he was from. I should be reading about these things, and I'm just going on memory here, so I may be wrong. Oh, and speaking of going on memory, Minami Sanriku is in Miyagi Prefecture, not Fukushima, and Miyagi is nearby. My wife Reiko kindly pointed that out. Thank you, Reiko. And here's a song for Hugh Thompson.
Hugh Thompson was a pilot, just like many more, fighting for old glory on a far-off foreign shore. He was on a lethal mission, only one of many, following his orders to kill the enemy. To kill the enemy. He flew low above the village, searching for the foe. When he saw a wounded child on the path below, he thought this to be a sure sign that the enemy was near. So he radioed for backup, and more choppers did appear. More choppers did appear. Help the wounded, he cried out, and beware of an attack. And then the child died by a bullet through her back. And when he looked around for the culprits of the scene, it was a company of men in U.S. military green. U.S. military green. The dead were in the hundreds, strewn all around in this place called My Lai, which once had been a town. There was a hut of huddled children, soldiers had them in their sights. Hugh decided at that moment to fight for what was right. To fight for what was right. Train your weapons on the GIs, and his copter crews obeyed, and stood among the children, tattered and afraid. The whole town had been murdered, but for some kids and widowed wives, and Hugh Thompson made sure that those remaining would survive. That those remaining would survive. It was a 15-minute standoff in a knee-deep sea of red, amidst the moaning of the dying and the silence of the dead. Hugh Thompson was a soldier, and he served his country well on the day he saved the lives of a dozen kids in hell. Of a dozen kids in hell.
That was from my CD from '98, We Just Want the World, which I think I seem to have recorded the entire CD with a cough drop stuck in between my teeth and my cheek, which is something I was doing constantly at the time, which was horrible for my teeth. And but I was at that time I was making a living playing in the subways in Boston, so I was like pretty much full time, which meant about 4 hours a day, which is how long my voice would last. 4 hours a day playing in the subways 5 or 6 days a week, and the air quality was terrible down there, so I was constantly sucking on a cough drop and keeping my voice in better shape that way, and my teeth in very bad shape that way. Why I didn't discover sugar-free cough drops, I don't know, but probably they would have given me cancer, so who knows. But, so, moving on to March 16th, I guess left-wing calendars tend to be full of massacres and bad things that happen, but I've got some other songs that are less depressing coming up. I didn't really organize this set the way I would in a performance where you don't do too many depressing songs in a row, so hopefully nobody's going to slit their wrists out there as a result of listening to this show. But March 16th, 2003, Rachel Corrie was one of a number of international supporters of the Palestinian people who were killed by the Israeli Defense Forces, and in her case, run over by a bulldozer, while sitting in front of the bulldozer, trying to prevent the bulldozing of the home of a doctor in the town of Rafah in Gaza Strip. And this month is the 10th anniversary of her killing. And right now, actually, her parents, Craig and Cindy, are here in Portland. Where I may be seeing them later today. They're talking at a conference in Portland today, and the Tree of Life Foundation, I believe. So if you search for that, you should be able to find it if you're around. You want to go. And then also on the 16th, on the actual day, on the anniversary, which happily, in a way, you could say, falls on a weekend, there is going to be events in Olympia where Rachel lived for most of her life, and where she went to college, where I also went to college for a bit at Evergreen State College. She will be her parents and other folks there in Olympia, many other folks will be having the 10th anniversary protest in Sylvester Park in the afternoon in Olympia, and then the evening at the Olympia Ballroom, and I'll be there for all of that. And here's a song I wrote very soon after Rachel was killed.
When she sat down in the dirt in front of your machine, a lovely woman dressed in red, you in military green. If you had met her in Jerusalem, you might have asked her on a date. But here you were in Gaza, rolling towards the gate. As your foot went to the floor, did you recall her eyes? Did her gaze remind you that you've become what you despise? As you rolled on towards this woman and ignored all shouts to stop, did you feel a shred of doubt as you watched her body drop? As your caterpillar tracks upon her body pressed with 60 tons of deadly force, crushed the bones within her chest, could you feel the contours of her face as you took her life away? Did you serve your country well on that cool spring day? The green line back to the open shore, was this just another day in a dirty war? When you looked out on the water, did you feel an empty void? Or was it just one more life you've taken, one more home destroyed, one more home destroyed?
And then moving on to March 17th. March 17th, we're doing history and song here, basically, folks, for anybody who might be just tuning in. On March 17th is, maybe it's not history in particular. Well, it is I don't know, it's history, but I have no idea why March 17th. But in any case, March 17th was my grandfather, Alvin Rovics's birthday. And it was also St. Patrick's Day. It is also St. Patrick's Day. So he wasn't Irish, but he always had a good time roaming the streets of Brooklyn on St. Patrick's Day. Legend has it, and happy that somebody was celebrating the day very actively, even if they didn't know it was his birthday. And he. I remember at his 75th birthday party, the cake was green. I specifically remember. It's probably because it was St. Patrick's Day, but I more remember the green color of the cake because I ate so much of it that I got sick, and I forever have a negative association with green frosting in that cake. But anyway, this is a song that is appropriate to play for the month that includes St. Patrick's Day. And it's a true story about 202, I believe it was, men from Ireland, as well as a few from other places, like I believe Wales and Poland, who deserted from the U.S. Army as it was getting deeper and deeper into Mexico in the unprovoked and imperialist invasion and annexation of most of Mexico by the United States in 1846. Now we call the people of Spanish background immigrants now in this country where so many of the states and towns have Spanish names because, well, they were part of Mexico. This is as the Irish and other men were getting deeper into Mexico, they quickly were realizing that they were on the wrong side. And there was a very bad movie made about this called One Man's Hero, and a very good music video made by somebody using footage from that video, which just got recently taken down from YouTube because I guess it was illegal. And now it's up again, in another form. And Ry Cooder did a wonderful album of songs with, I believe, was he working with the Dubliners, I think, on the music about the St. Patrick Battalion. Most of it is instrumental and not really about anything, but it's a nice mix of Mexican and Irish music, which is appropriate for the occasion of celebrating the St. Patrick Battalion.
My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland. It was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. And there amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied, so we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We got about at least a quarter of a battalion right here, so you can sing along. We marched beneath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin gold brow, right with the harp and the shamrock and Libertad para Republica. Just 50 years after Wolfe Tone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied, so we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. What'd we do? We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in Matamoros, where their volunteers were raping the nuns. In Monterrey and Cerro Gordo, we fought on as Ireland's sons. We were the red-headed fighters for freedom amidst these brown-skinned women and men. Side by side we fought against tyranny, and I dare say we'd do it again. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied, so we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. 5 major battles. Churubusco was the last. Overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside at the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion, and we fought on the Mexican side.
That's from a live show at Club Passim in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 2008, I believe it was, maybe 2007, somewhere around there, with Eric Royer on banjo and Ali Rosenblatt singing with me, and wonderful people, wonderful musicians. Why you guys need to know that, I don't know, because you're listening to me talk, so, you know, maybe you want to know these things. Yeah, listening to me talk and listening to me play my own songs. It's a bit narcissistic, really. The whole thing is a bit narcissistic, but at the same time, I figure somebody's got to do it, and that's what, you know, internet. I mean, it'd be weird doing this on an actual radio station, you know, sitting there playing my own songs. I don't think I'd do that, but something about internet radio, it's different. Maybe it isn't. I don't know, but nobody else is doing this, you know. History and song in David Rovics's music, so I figure somebody should do it. I don't know. What the heck? I'm me, so I guess that would be me to do it. It makes sense. And I was thinking maybe an hour was a good length for a radio show, but you know, given that this is not being rebroadcast on any stations where that actually matters, who cares how long we go here? I'll just keep on going until I'm done. You know, at least with this month in history that I have lined up here on the playlist, as it's called. And moving on to March 18th, the day after St. Patrick's Day, 2003. March 18th was when the official invasion of Iraq began. In the most recent invasion of Iraq. Of course, Iraq had been invaded and occupied, basically, more or less embargoed, partially occupied, for many years before 2003. But you know, the sanctions began in 1990, in the summer of 1990, and after killing 500,000 children, according to UNICEF. Under the sanctions regime, then even though fairly heroic efforts were made to use what little resources there was to feed the people of Iraq by the Iraqi government, which did a pretty good job of distributing what little was available, the U.S. Then invaded, of course, on entirely false pretense that they were working on building weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. At the time, and pretense that was known to be false by lots of people who were paying attention, but now you have some former administration officials kind of apologizing belatedly and hoping for some kind of absolution, I suppose. But they knew what they were doing at the time, regardless of what they claim now. And they were too spineless to speak up at the time. Then that's that's unfortunate. But here's a song that works well as a it's a good song for cheerleaders to do stuff with, and people think that's ridiculous and strange that I should say that, but here in the U.S. there's not only a tradition of cheerleaders, but a tradition of what we call radical cheerleaders, and just look it up if you're wondering what that is. But here's my song, Operation Iraqi Liberation, which incidentally was the name of the war in Iraq for several hours before they changed it and to something that does not spell oil.
We've got a situation and it calls for a solution that upholds our domination of the planet. We're gonna make our case and we're gonna make it well, and if you don't like our logic, you can can it. We'll use impeccable intelligence from any country in the world, as long as we all see eye to eye. And if we don't find quite what we need, we know what to do. Just look into the camera and lie. It's Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L. And we'll lie about the missiles and the nuclear research. We'll lie about uranium. We'll build military bases and smile for reporters as we give away bubble gum. And we'll lie about Bin Laden, his connections with the Saudis. We'll lie about 911. And we'll lie about the Baathists, their connections to Al-Qaeda, because we know there's none. It's Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L. We'll lie about the North Koreans and we'll lie about Iran, and don't mention Israel. Keep those nuclear weapons out of this song. It'll all hold together swell. Now we'll liberate these people, we'll liberate their money, we'll liberate their soil. We'll liberate their airports, we'll liberate their harbors, and we'll liberate their oil. Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. Operation Iraqi Liberation. Tell me, what does that spell? Operation Iraqi Liberation. O-I-L.
That's me playing a 12 string, which I recorded with many years ago, and never seem to get it out of the closet these days, but a lot of things are just like that in life. And if you agree, then send me a message. And let's see. So, given the anniversary of the 10th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq, which is this month, I thought I'd play a couple other songs that are very much directly related to that subject. And here's one that I titled after something that was very similar titled, but different song from about 100 years ago, when Johnny came marching home.
He got off the plane, looked at no one, walked down the tarmac in the direction of nowhere, followed the sun as it was setting, glad to be done with all the bloodletting. There were no banners for the proud and the few, just workers in airports that do what they do. Fuel up the planes, unload the bags, along with the coffins all covered in flags. when Johnny came marching home. The town he was from was a dead little place, so he looked for a job somewhere off base. In the city of pawn shops, hotels and bars, gas stations, strip clubs, highways and cars, he went to a dive, ordered a beer, said turn the music up loud, so it's all that I hear. Try to rewind, turn back the years, stop the explosions between my ears. When Johnny came marching home, well, the jobs were all shit and the beer was cheap. Besides, there was no other way he could sleep. Still the screams and the guns would wake him at night. He was always on edge and ready to fight. When he closed his eyes, he would just see the face of a woman he killed in some faraway place. Over and over, the white of her eye, and her final and terrified cry. When Johnny came marching home. Joints and a thump in the heart. The doctor just told him it's all in his head, but he couldn't stop drinking or get out of bed. And with no place to go but the wrong way, it was a shock to his ears when he heard himself say over and over to anyone within range, "Hey mister, can you spare some change?" When Johnny came marching home.
And one of the most obviously horrific consequences of the war in Iraq, the occupation of Iraq, is, of course, the consequences to the people of Iraq, which is most eloquently, I guess you could say, demonstrated by what happened in Fallujah, where I believe about 80% of the buildings that once stood in this beautiful city that was known as the City of Mosques were destroyed by the U.S. military, and still today lie in rubble with hundreds of thousands of refugees living in tents and all around the area. And this is a song called Fallujah.
Hear about me when you watch the evening news. So I write this letter for you, my friends, the truth then you may choose. I had a good time at Oxford and the world I did roam. When my studies were finished, then I went back home. All I wanted were good things, land and liberty, and all the sorts of things we learned at the university. I'm not a fan of dictatorships. I'd rather say live and let live. But for those who threaten my family, there's nothing I won't give. I will fight for my country. I'll defend this land. I'll stare at the whites of your soldiers' eyes with this Kalashnikov in my hand. With this Kalashnikov in my hand. When you break down the doors of my neighbors, when you say that might makes right, when you say you're looking for terrorists in their bedrooms late at night, when you torture my brother at gunpoint, on his head a canvas sack, all I can say to you, soldier, is you'd best watch your back. I will fight for my country, I'll defend this land. I'll stare at the whites of your soldiers' eyes with this Kalashnikov in my hand. With this Kalashnikov in my hand.
Yeah. See, I'ma fight for my country, though I hate the war, but I deplore even more when they take me for. Think about where you live, how you typically be when the bombs start falling in the middle of the street. It ain't difficult to see what side to choose. With all the lies they use, can't hide the truth. White lies from these white guys in the White House. Might as well wear white sheets while they wipe out. I mean, white out all opposition. And bomb call the people into submission. He's got a Bible, he's down with Jesus Christ. He likes blacks, just ask for the leaves of rights. It's all evil lies in a weak disguise. See the signs, read in between the lines. You wanna save America, I'll bring you support. Arrest the president and bring him to court. Charge him and his puppeters of war crimes. And start paying reparations of all kinds. You think what I'm telling you to do is extreme, but if you live in Fallujah, it'd be a beautiful dream. So I hold my tears and my hopes and fears when you bomb our country and attack our town. Don't be surprised when the whole world cheers to see another Black Hawk down, motherfucker.
When you come with your tanks on our city streets and you say these streets are yours, when you say you'll rebuild us with bombers and oil tankers on our shores, when you've gunned down my child in Fallujah, you needn't wonder why. I look at you through the blades of your copter and say it's a good day to die. I will fight for my country, I'll defend this land. I'll stare at the whites of your soldiers' eyes with this Kalashnikov in my hand. With this Kalashnikov in my hand.
I was reading Robert Fisk. Oh, by the way, that was Professor D of the Dope Poets Society doing that rap in there, and man, great stuff. So I was reading Robert Fisk, and he was talking about how the U.S. Army was just pretty much looking at everything in Iraq from inside the green zone through the sniper sights, and how it was clearly only a matter of time before the whole thing fell apart, and wrote this song. And I think after this we'll move on to other subjects related to the end of March. This is history and song for the month of March. Of course, this is the 10th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. And your comments and questions in the comment section on the lower right of the screen. There's a little balloon. You can click on that and say hi. And here is Waiting for the Fall, with a kick-ass band playing with me in Boston. This is from Halliburton Boardroom Massacre.
Helicopter missiles launch, the ground rumbles, apartment complex shakes just before it crumbles. Children scream and die, wrong time, wrong place. A woman wears a shawl that hides a scar upon her face. A boy looks through a pool of blood, prays to see the day when the armies of the infidels will once more go away. And everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall. Lights go out again, the city swelters in the heat. 1,000 ghosts are weeping amid the pockmarked street. No food in the market, you can't reap grain that you can't sow. A no man's land, the Red Cross doesn't dare to go. A soldier shoots at everything, acting like the master race, all the while wondering what he's doing in this place, where everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall. Where everything's gone wrong, death squads roam the alleys, looking for the eye of anyone who dares to say a lie is just a lie. The torturers are torturing in a prison cell, flushing Korans down the toilet, saying all praise be to Shell. And everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall. Back, a sound that lets you know you're somewhere in Iraq. Surgeons with no medicine wonder what to do and ask how things might be if the outside world knew. In an ivory tower in Texas, they're toasting the new year, not knowing there's a country far away from here, where everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall.
So, let's see. I don't know if I'm the best radio host here, really. I should jump in with something interesting to say right after that, you know? Not just like, but I guess, you know, that's what you get. So, in 1978, on March 26th, we're doing history and song here. March 26th, month of March, that's what we're in now. 1978. Twindcraft went online, and Twindcraft was and is the first really big industrial size windmill, and it was a time in the 70s when where is the song, when everybody who had the money and the technology, you know, all the countries like the US and France and Germany and lots of others, Japan, etc., were building nuclear reactors, and in response to the energy crisis, among other things, like the desire to build nuclear weapons and blow up the world and fund the arms contractors that run this country, etc. But anyway, everybody was building these nuclear reactors, these dangerous things that melt down, like we've found so many times in Pennsylvania, Ukraine, Japan, etc. But in Denmark, people on, you could say, the left or alternative types, just citizens really, were thinking about how to respond to the situation, and with the desire that many in government and society had to join on the whole bandwagon of building nuclear reactors. And it was being debated in the parliament, and it was very much a possibility that Denmark would join all the other countries that were building nukes. And so some people thought, what kind of creative solution could there be to this problem, to this question? And they engaged in a very proactive, creative solution, which I have seen personally on other occasions in Denmark as well. The same kind of thinking. What's a good, proactive, creative solution? Not surprising that it should come out of Denmark, because I think, for one thing, Denmark has been for longer than many societies consciously raising children to be thoughtful, compassionate human beings, and it shows. And here's my song about Tvindkraft called The Biggest Windmill.
It was in the 1970s. The fuel crisis had begun. The choices were presented to us as if we had none. Leaders of industry said they could solve the problem by mastering the power of the radioactive atom. Some folks in western Jutland got a notion in their heads. They thought there might be something they could offer up instead. A few hundred people gathered in a little place called Tvind and declared their will to harness the power of the wind. They said, "We're gonna build the biggest windmill in the world. We're gonna build the biggest windmill in the world." There were many who said their science wasn't sound, that such a mighty windmill would simply topple to the ground. Some of them were scientists, the vast majority were not, but they knew with years of effort you could do a lot. Word about the project spread far and wide. 100,000 visitors came to help and to advise. Until one day these windmill builders drove in with a crane and lifted up their giant wings with a mighty chain. We're gonna build the biggest windmill in the world. We're gonna build the biggest windmill in the world. When Tvindkraft was completed, it reached up to the sky. Its wings churned in the air. At 54 meters high, the critics all fell silent. No one now was jeering, as even industry agreed. This was some damn fine engineering. The wind regaled Jutland from the North Atlantic Sea, as it was seamlessly converted into electricity. It was power for the people, leukemia for none, when they declared in Denmark, just south of the midnight sun. We're gonna build the biggest windmill in the world. We're gonna build the biggest windmill in the world. They gave away the patents. They said knowledge should be free. And their plans were copied by a newborn industry. Soon Denmark would be known.
For some reason, that song also cut out before it was actually done. Some kind of problem here with this Spreaker, the way it's doing things with MP3s, I guess, occasionally on two of those songs, both from the same album. Maybe the problem is on my end. I don't know. I'll check into that and hopefully get it sorted out before I play those songs again. I think I'll just close here with one more song. Moving up in history and song in the month of March. We are now at March 28th in Portland, here in Portland, where I live, Portland, Oregon. James Jahar Perez becomes the third unarmed African American in 25 months killed by the Portland police, who have actually the worst record in the U.S. for per capita for the killing of black men. And I wrote a song a few months ago called Watch Out for the Cops, which is on my latest album, Meanwhile in Afghanistan, which you can download for free or by donation on my website, davidrovics.com. Donations appreciated, but not required. And if you are in the northwestern U.S., then I hope to see you perhaps in Olympia on March 16th, on the 10th anniversary of Rachel Corrie's killing. We will be having protests and remembrances and other things happening, performances and speeches in outdoors and indoors in Olympia on March 16th. And I'll also be doing a show in Eugene the night before on March 15th. And then I'm very actively right now trying to organize my spring tour of Europe, which will be beginning on April 19th or so. And I'll be going to all over Scandinavia and Germany and the Netherlands, Switzerland, Britain, and Ireland, and perhaps also elsewhere, Belgium, France. I don't know. We'll see what comes together. But anybody there in Europe who might want to organize a show, I would love to hear from you. And then I'll be later in the summer going to Japan and Hong Kong, Australia, New Zealand, and then in September back in Europe, and then in New York. So if you're somewhere, I'd love to hear from you about organizing shows, because that's how it works. It's all totally DIY. Nobody else is doing this stuff for me. So if I'm going to play somewhere, that's how it works. And so far, so good. There's your little commercial announcement for the show, and I'll play Watch Out for the Cops, and then I will get off of here, and I'll see you on the road and in the streets and in cyberspace, or all of the above, I hope.
Portland is a town that's in the news much of the time. There are a lot of vegans and there's very little crime. It's a nice, safe place to live. Folks ride bicycles a lot. The winters aren't so cold and the summers aren't so hot. They build houses out of cob. They hang out in the park, where you needn't worry about walking after dark. There are lots of homeless people, but they don't hurt no one. Just be careful of the boys in blue playing with their guns. Yeah, watch out for the cops. 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 You can hang out with the punks, with the piercings and tattoos. You can eat out at a food truck, any neighborhood you choose. You can dance to Balkan music while you drink a microbrew, chilling in a gay bar with the mayor and his crew. But be careful what you do, be prepared to get some flack, especially for those who may be male, young, and black. The fact is you do better in Sweet Home, Alabama. You're safer there on the old streets of Birmingham. Yeah, watch out for the cops. roses, there are flowers everywhere. But for others, they've got prisons with some nice electric chairs. You can go downtown, ride the buses there for free, but you never know when you'll get a DWP. A town full of progressives, but such a rotten bunch of cops. Who knows who'll get shot at the next routine traffic stop? When you live in a place like Portland, where they tend to act this way, you can just join the police force instead of the KKK. Yeah, watch out for the cops. Watch out for the cops.